Survivor 43 wrapped up this weekend, or this week, Wednesday. Um, you and I had been texting a little bit about this season, especially as it went on, because I think while Survivor has made these like changes to the game with more idols, more like riskier advantages, things where they want to put advantages out in the open so that people have to kind of negotiate and strategize around them. You really just can't beat when you get really strong, thoughtful, creative players. And I think this season thrived off of the fact that they had at least two, if not, and I think up to maybe like four or five players that are memorable and I would love to see come back. And, um, I think we have to start with the winner, Gabler, but then maybe work our way back to who else stood out from us. What were your feelings around Gabler's win this season?
Yeah, I think that's kind of the big talking point, right? Like up into this finale, I was like, this is pretty solid Survivor season. Maybe nothing spectacular on the production, new Survivor twists kind of things, but more so just like once again, they did a pretty good job of casting like a diverse range of people who think and act different ways and have different backgrounds, and it just manifests in a really nice way. And like that's what like is the core appeal of watching Survivor, right?
Mhm.
And then we get to the finale, and it's like, well, I think all of us going in, we're like, well, if Jesse can survive to the finale, to the final tribal, he will win for sure.
Exactly.
Like that was pretty obvious, and of course, it was obvious to his competitors that he was such a big threat, and thus he gets taken out at fire and doesn't make it to the final three. It's Gabler, Owen, and Cassidy. And at that point, I was like, okay, Cassidy probably wasn't anyone's first pick of like the people towards the end there, but with Carla gone, with Jesse gone, with Cody gone, yeah, Cassidy's probably the next most deserving one. It's a credible Survivor win, good for her. And then like the really unexpected thing happens where Gabler just really charms the jury in a really unexpected way. Like he really got everyone to buy into what he was saying, and he was representing his ability to kind of move through alliances and be flexible and shift where he needed to be at the right time without getting heat on himself. And it was a pretty compelling pitch. And at the same time, I think Cassidy probably needed to go a bit harder on owning why she deserved it, because she did deserve it, and
Mhm.
she just didn't quite capture the jury in the way she needed to, which is a bit unfortunate. I think they were holding a lot of stuff against her,
Mhm.
specifically like her decisions with the fire making challenge and who was and wasn't in it, including herself. Uh, but yeah,
What
like
a
the whole like
ridiculous thing.
I know, and we'll get into that. But the whole like Alec Gabler thing kind of coming up, and next thing we know, there was this alliance that Gabler was in with what was it, Cody and Jesse? I forget what they called it, but like we're getting told all these things at the end there from Gabler, and the jury's like backing him up and like acknowledging it as they fit into the story. And it's like it would be nice if like
We saw
the
this.
the audience had kind of been on this journey too, and we had built it up to Gabler's kind of upset win from the bottom. It would
Mhm.
feel more compelling because, like, to us as viewers, we just didn't see any of that to the point where we didn't think he had a credible chance.
Right.
And certainly, winning a fire making challenge, beating Jesse, who's not good at fire making, surely that doesn't mean anything to Gabler suddenly winning, right? It certainly shouldn't.
No.
So I just think there was an issue with communicating the arc of this season, because the arc we thought we were getting was not the arc that it ended up being. So, I mean, good for Gabler donating all the money. He seems like a nice guy, seems like a genuine guy. Second oldest winner. That's obviously very cool.
Mhm.
And I think he came a long way on the season because he started off, I think, very grating, very annoying to both,
Yeah.
I think, the audience and also to his tribe mates. The fact that he was able to have that self awareness to kind of adjust how he moved on the show, and clearly it worked. So, hats off to him. But yeah, I think there's some issues with I think Survivor thinking of now kind of bubbled up with the way Survivor 43 ended.
Yeah, yeah. You summed it up really well. I definitely think the alliance bit was the piece that I think was most surprising to me in the final because that really became a point where Cassie was made to look like a fool on a few of her pitches to the jury. Was like, I had set this move up and I was navigating this, and they all were like, oh no, actually, there was this alliance of like five of us that had already set this up and made you believe that you were the one setting it up, but you didn't actually. And she was like, oh, I guess I just didn't realize this. And neither did we as the viewer. So we're
Right.
like, what the fuck? Like it doesn't feel good as a viewer to feel blindsided in the final tribal council. But beyond that, yeah, it felt like they were way more interested in setting up some of the other contestants who seem more likely to be invited back. And I think Gabler will be invited back as a winner at some point. But Jesse and Cody specifically feel like contestants that they wanted to give a really like drawn out and full story arc to, as people that they probably want to set up as people that will be in the franchise more and more moving forward. And Jesse and Cody were great players this season. I mean, those two as an alliance, Jesse made the right play in getting Cody out when he could, because
Yeah.
I think
Spectacular, wasn't it?
if they got to the final tribal council together, I mean, how do you choose between them, right? And I guess at that point, Jesse wouldn't have had the move to take Cody out, so Cody probably would have won. But man, just two incredibly strong players. And yeah, why don't we talk about that move? Like, how did you feel about Jesse totally backstabbing Cody, and then everything afterwards?
Yeah, well, I think obviously it was really brilliant. It was really smart because Jesse needed to differentiate himself from his core alliance member. Jesse is more reserved than Cody, even if Jesse had been more of the mastermind and it wasn't a 50-50 thing. He wouldn't have been able to communicate that as well, given how charming Cody is, right? So it was smart. Obviously it was cold, it was heartless, and I think like Survivor obviously is a much more like positive, happy place. They don't really like edit people into villain roles anymore, which
Mm,
I kind of would like to see villains again. Like it's just fun, but I mean, you see at the end there, right? Like when Jesse like stands up and like offers to shake Cody's hand, and like Cody like legit pauses and like takes a deep breath thinking about it. They
yeah.
swell the music on you, and then they embrace. And I was like, oh my god, that was actually like incredibly moving, and
Yes.
also this amazing like Survivor play and the move of the season. You
Hmm.
know, I was like, wow, that was like a classic like pantheon like Survivor moment. I think.
I thought we were going to get the first like punch on Survivor. I thought Cody might actually punch him because it was that much of a backstabbing move. And in listening to some of Cody's like one-on-ones afterwards, he was like, it was a great move and it was the right move. I'm just mad I didn't realize it was the right move at the time.
Right.
Um
And
and
to that point, I think like Survivor IQ of viewers and obviously anyone who's coming on the show at this point is just so high. There's such a respect for like good Survivor gameplay, even when it's at your own expense.
right.
And like you see that attitude all the time. Like when Noel gets taken out, when Carlo gets taken out, they're like, "Yeah, well played. Like hats off to you. You got
Mhm.
me." Like that. I feel like we're kind of beyond like the bitterness that people would feel if they get betrayed or they get voted out, right?
Yep. Oh, I agree. It's probably hard in that moment when you get voted out, especially by someone that you trusted so much, to just totally realize that. But no, I agree with the sentiment. I think the other thing that I liked about this season compared to some of the other ones we've had, because they are trying to bring on like these Survivor like fans who are diehards, have watched every episode, know every contestant ever.
Right.
But in past seasons, I think some of the ones that they've brought on have been almost like too over the top in terms of their fandom and like how they're bringing that into their gameplay. And this felt like the right balance in terms of the contestants that they had were not overly obsessed with the history, but were aware of the history and bringing that into the game in different ways. And it felt like I didn't find myself feeling as like annoyed or grated by the like survivorness and like the survivor fandom of the contestants, but I appreciated that they would like call back to past moments or past strategies, and not
Mhm.
wanting to have certain things happen again, so on and so on.
Yeah, I agree. We should talk about fire though, and
I wanted to ask
the
you,
paradigm.
how do you fix it?
I say get the fuck out of here, dude. I think I never really liked it. I returned to Survivor when it was already introduced, so you kind of saw it from its genesis. I didn't, but from what I see, like it's played its course and its intended goals. It just shifts like how you target threats to like a vote earlier. Like
Hmm.
everyone's smart enough to adjust to it. So I don't like the introduction of a subtle crapshoot at the end there. Also, because now players seem to really like view it as like something that the winner of the final immunity challenge should take as a risk to boost their own resume when they don't.
Mhm.
They should just be getting credit for winning that immunity. Like I kind of hate that whole premise. It's like, oh, actually no, let me like take my armor off and completely expose myself just to make sure I can guarantee that win, as if I haven't done everything else to get here to this point. Like I would rather just eliminate it. I think Survivor, to its credit, has innovated and changed throughout its 22 years, and that's why it's still so successful. Obviously, it's not as big as it used to be, but it's still a solid, healthy show for CBS. And you have to know when your twists, your changes have run their course, and I have a feeling they will eventually adapt out of this. But I think it's like really necessary now. Like the fact that Cassidy had this held over her head, I thought was like super unfair.
Yeah, Chris Underwood putting himself in the fire making challenge as a way to get out. I forgot who he was taking out that season. Seems to really have uh set up this idea that if you don't have another like strong contestant that you're trying to like put up against someone that you're trying to get out in fire making, then the one who won immunity should be the one that goes in and just like takes the clear like winner to that point out. And that just seems ridiculous. Like if you win immunity, you should not have to give it up in order to like convince the jury that you're a strong player. You won
Es-
immunity.
Especially the final immunity, the one with the most at stake. You
Exactly.
know,
And those
you're making it
challenges.
like it's the one with the least value. It's so stupid.
And Cassidy not only won that challenge, but she fucking dominated. Like her stack, even though it fell like right after she got on the
Yeah,
plank, like everybody else's, they got to like third 12 or 13 and it fell over. Like she deserved to win
yeah.
that final
And she won
immunity.
3 challenges too. She was a great player at the merge stage.
Hmm.
I thought, and like I mean, to her credit, like she was able to survive a lot of early heat and shift around. And like, why doesn't she get credit for using Carla as a shield? Like, I don't
Mm.
understand.
Yeah,
It's
it's,
like oh, Carla's gone. Jesse has this amazing move, but he can't finish because he always sucked at challenges.
yep.
He lost.
Mhm.
Cassidy should win, you know?
Yeah.
But like they were so willing, the jury, to be charmed by Gabler. And like
Hmm.
again, credit to Gabler, he really nailed it with the pitch.
Yeah.
But like I think just she got totally fucked, and the fire should not have factored into that at all.
I completely agree. How would you feel if the final immunity challenge was like whoever came in last has to is now on the jury? Like instead of it being like you are like on the jury by like vote, it's like if you come in last in that challenge, you are automatically on the jury.
That's really interesting. So like as opposed to having a final, well, we don't have a final vote anymore. We have the fire making. So
Hmm.
instead of just limiting fire making, we're almost like skipping a step, huh? And putting value on the challenge. I like that because I
And
think Survivor does a really good job, especially compared to other reality shows, of really making fair and objectively winnable like challenges to
mhm.
all body types and sizes and gender and whatnot. So I would love a re-emphasis on a challenge for sure. I think that's actually a really nice idea because it at least it at least tries to do what Fire did too, where like taking some of like the threat heat out. So like if you can last to that final challenge, then you just have to win it and you're good.
Mhm.
Or not lose it. I think that's a decent idea.
I think the downsides to it are in terms of the storytelling of the season. They like to use the like final four as like a reflective point for the season, and also like the strategy of setting up the narratives for the final tribal council. So they would have to think about that in terms of storytelling, and it does take some of the power away from the person who wins immunity in the final tribal council in terms of getting the choice of who they're bringing with them, and then who they're sending as like the third person in. But I have confidence that the show can figure out a different way, but it's pretty evident that fire can't be, a deciding factor for the final three moving forward.
Right. So we know we're getting Survivor 44 in spring 23. I believe March 1st it starts. I imagine that'll be a season similar to the one we just had. But then a year from now, fall 2023 will be 45, and everyone's assumed that is going to be the first like season featuring returning players from this new era
Yes.
post Survivor 40. Like you mentioned, they gave a lot of shine to people like Cody and Jesse and others, those people would actually be filming 45 uh, pretty soon.
Mhm.
Actually, no. Actually, were they filming it now? I forget the exact cadence, but actually, they might be filming it in the spring. So like that's coming up. That's on the mind, right? I'm sure they're already well into casting with the returning players.
Mhm.
So that'll be very tantalizing because I think we have had a lot of great characters, especially out of the non-winners from the last 3 seasons so far. So I think that'll be like a really exciting one, and hopefully they introduce a lot of change to format and twists and whatnot that in that time.
Yeah, for you, who would be like the people you would want to see come back most from the last like 5 seasons so far?
Yeah, there's a lot of ones, right? I think 41 probably has a lot of
Yeah.
contenders, right? Shan, Ricard, Xander,
Yep. Those three
mm,
came to mind
yep,
immediately.
and even other people that you could easily want to bring back, like Danny. Like
Hmm.
there's a lot of people there. Um, this season, obviously, Cody, Jesse, Carla, Cassidy, Gabler. Who else was in last season? I'm forgetting 42 a
Yeah,
little bit right
so
now.
like the final three was Mike, Romeo,
Oh,
and
that's right.
Marianne.
Oh,
And
Jonathan from 42.
yes.
Right, obviously. I just want to see that guy be
Hmm.
giant again. Um, who else
Although
was
somewhat problematic, but
he
oh,
was, yes. Oh, uh
I guess
there
like
was bunch of
High.
yep, High
Uh,
was pretty good.
yeah. Roxroy had a nice story arc, although
Guys
not very
Alliance.
liked. Yeah. Um,
I'm trying to remember her name. Hold on, I'm pulling it up.
yep.
Uh
I forget that Marianne won last season. Man, that's
yeah.
insane to me.
Oh, Drea from 42. I thought was
Yeah.
really great. She would be
Yep.
nice to come back as well. Yeah.
Yep.
So I think yeah,
Some
they
strong
have plenty of
players.
choice, and maybe they do like a half and half kind of thing, like half returners, half new. But there's plenty of great choices, and
Yes.
I would imagine like I, I wonder if they ever go back to pre-40 people. Obviously, some people are going to start aging out of being a realistic pick, but eventually they're going to do a new school versus old school Survivor. You have to imagine, right?
Hmm.
Because like obviously, what's 41 onward, there's less days. It's a faster game, and then pre 40 and before it's a longer game, so like these contestants only know one version of Survivor. So like could you introduce a new version of a new length somewhere in the middle and pit them against each other? Obviously I know they went to a shorter length due to cost certainty with the production of the show, and it's like future and finances and whatnot, so maybe they won't do that. But yeah, I think maybe down the line, maybe season 50 will be
Yeah.
the return of some old heads. I don't know.
I think the hard thing is like season 50 puts them what, like 3 more years down the line.
Yep,
So by then, is Tony gonna want to come back? Because you really can't bring back older winners and not have Tony after his last
I
performance.
know. And like yeah, like it's a lot of people in their 40s, right? Like
Yeah,
no matter, yeah. So maybe not, but 45, I think we're all pretty excited for because we assume we'll see some returning faces, which will be awesome.
definitely. Let us know your thoughts on Survivor. How do you fix fire? What did you think of Jesse's move?